Hey friends, today I'm making a mixed media index card. I'm going to be using some of these painted paper scraps that I have. Some of them are old jelly prints and some are just scraps of paper, pieces of kitchen roll that I have used to mop up old paint, things like that. I selected this jelly print to use as a background. I used Liquitex gel matte medium to adhere the jelly print to the index card. Also, while I was selecting which jelly print to use as my background, I found a face within one of them, and I've made a bonus video for anyone who's interested. It's just a short video where I find a face and create another index card. This video can be found on my blog or on my Facebook page. The link to both can be found in the description below this video. I actually started making this index card in February, and as February is the month of love, this index card is loosely based around love, but not the romantic kind. It's more about love lost. This could be a relationship that's ended, a friendship that's gone sour, it could be a loved one passing, just anything that's left you feeling like something's missing in your heart. So that was the general idea I had when I began this index card, and throughout you will see little elements that relate to this theme. Here I am adhering some torn music sheet paper to the background in 3 separate places. I've been asked several times what is the little tool I use when I spread the glue. It's actually called a plastic glue spreader, and they are easily available to buy here in the UK. I'm not sure about elsewhere in the world how easily available they are. So here I'm just tearing some kitchen paper that has some paint on it, and I'm going to be positioning it over the music paper, not to disguise it fully but just to blend it a little more into the background. So recently I've been going to a few art galleries with my sister, and I really enjoy looking around and seeing everything. We went to the Tate Modern and the Tate Britain not so long ago, and last week Saturday we went to the National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I particularly liked looking at the old Tudor paintings in the National Portrait Gallery, despite thinking that I would prefer the modern art more. And in the National Gallery we saw like Van Gogh's sunflower painting and things like that. It's really wonderful to be able to see pieces of artwork that you've seen for many years in images online, in books, and then you're standing in front of it a few inches away from your face and you can see all the colour, the brush marks. And I love walking around and seeing all the paintings from the old masters and then all the up and coming artists who have artwork too, and all the different styles. They're very inspirational to me. I'm now just adhering some more painted papers, and I'm just positioning them wherever I feel looks good on the index card. There's no real method or rules to it. I just position them around so I feel like they're spread out evenly, or that they simply just look good in the place that I put them. But like always, I am using each element and each layer 3 times in 3 separate places around the index card. I always add everything in groups of 3 normally, but you can add it in groups of 5s or even 7 if you want to. Odd numbers always works best. At this point I had begun to start thinking where I was going with this index card, and I had decided that I wanted to create a type of human shape, and this jelly print that I have, I decided I was going to use it to become hair. I then used different pieces of painted paper to create more of the body shape. Most of the time when I'm creating art, other than maybe a basic theme or idea, everything is intuitive. I just go with the flow, and what happens happens, and how it ends up is not really what matters, it's the process. And often I explore my feelings and thoughts through my artwork. hence why in February and with the theme of Valentine's Day I don't automatically go to the thought of romance and love. I am more the type of person that reflects on my life and what it means to me, and a day where people are sort of made to feel that they have to tell their other half that they love them isn't very meaningful to me. I think if you love someone you would tell them as often as you can throughout the whole year. I wonder why when given the prompt of Valentine's Day I have selected pinks and reds for this index card. I've fallen into a trap of thinking that that represents love somehow. But red especially can also mean anger or rage, just as much as it can represent love, romance, and things like that. Here I have a piece from a calendar and it has a little quote on it that is about love, and I decided to add that as a little nod to the theme of Valentine's Day. The glue I'm using now to adhere the papers is Mod Podge, I believe. I'm now adhering some painted kitchen paper on top of the quote. I don't want it to be covered fully, I want it to still show through a little bit. As long as I know it's in there, it represents love and the theme of Valentine's Day, but it doesn't have to be on the surface for everyone to see. I am now applying black Archival ink around the edges, and I'm using a makeup sponge to apply it. Here I have some gold acrylic paint from Reeves, and I have some corrugated cardboard and I'm using it to apply the paint. Unfortunately my corrugated cardboard has flattened out quite a bit due to using it once before, and instead I reverted to using my fingers to apply the paint. Next I decided to add some washi tape. I selected this leopard print style washi tape and I tore it into strips of 3. I wanted to add a little more pattern to the background and also break up the pink with a little bit of black and white. I'm using Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue to adhere the washi tape to the index card. Washi tape often peels off over time, and by using the glue this will prevent that from happening. I never really used washi tape in art in the past. I acquired it to use more in my papercraft projects and when I used to be involved in swaps, which I don't really do as much now. I'm more focusing on doing artwork instead, but I'm trying to think of new ways of adding washi tape to my art journal pages or other projects that I do. Here I have a piece of book paper. I got it from a book, I believe it was called Warm Bodies, and it had this picture of a heart on it, and I thought that would be ideal to use on this index card. Before I cut out the heart and adhere it down, I decided I wanted, of course, to add some red painted paper behind it. I then also thought I would add some of this netting, which you can find normally around different things like fruit or vegetables, and I'm gonna adhere that to my index card before I add a heart on top of it. This will add additional texture to the index card and more visual interest. I now use a black pigment liner pen by Staedtler, I believe that's what it's called, and I just go over the darker areas of the heart to add some shading and to make different areas of the heart chambers stand out more obviously. At this stage of the process you may or may not be able to visualize where the human form is going to be, and although I am going to place the heart in the center of the chest instead of to the left hand side, that's just because I want it to have a visual punch and be like in the dead centre and the main focal point of the index card. Next I begin to assemble all the pieces that I want to adhere to the centre of the index card. The netting I try to position in a way that it will still show the words love through some of the different sections in the netting itself. I want to be able to see them hopefully when the index card is finished. If they get lost, however, it's not a problem. I still know that the quote is in there and it's still part of the piece overall. Here I'm just using a black colouring pencil to darken some of the areas on the heart and once again add some more shading. I didn't think the dark areas was dark enough. I'm then using these art fine liner pens to add some red touches to the heart and add a little more detail in certain areas. And now I'm adding some highlights using my Sakura Jelly Roll pen and going over any areas that I want to add a pop of white. I then chose to use this image of a face and I'm going to tear it out before I adhere it down. I don't tend to use images of faces from magazines and things like that in my artwork too often. I normally would draw a face. It's perfectly fine to add images of faces or whatever you like to your artwork, but always bear in mind if you do so, those images are probably copyrighted. Now I'm using this Lumocolor Permanent pencil by Staedtler and I believe it's a pencil that can write on all different surfaces. I however have not tried it other than on paper or card and it works perfectly fine. It's got a very creamy sort of texture to it. I'm now going to use some acrylic gesso and I'm going to apply it using bubble wrap to the hair of the girl. I want to break up the black background where it separates from her original hair to the hair that I created using the jelly print earlier, and I want to blend them together so that they become one. I then use a makeup sponge to apply some Archival black ink to the hair and I'm stenciling it through some punchinella or sequin waste as some people might know it as. And this now adds more texture to the hair and overall gives a more conform effect so everything blends together. I'm now using a Stabilo oil pencil to outline the body shape. And this pencil is water soluble, so I will be using my water brush to activate the pencil, and once you do that the lines will become much darker and it should make everything stand out a lot more from the background. I'm now using some of the leftover magazine page to cover up the body because I'm going to be adding some gesso and I want to splat it on and I don't want to ruin everything that I've already created. I just want the splats to go onto the background. I'm watering down the gesso and then I have my fan brush and I hold it and I tap it gently and it creates these lovely splatters. Once I dried everything thoroughly using my heat gun, I then decided I wanted to add a bit more red to the background, because at present I only had red in the centre of the image and I wanted it in a few more places to carry the colour around the index card and to take the viewer's eyes on a little journey. I then decided to use the remainder of this book page, as it had some words on it that I felt were relevant to the theme of this index card of love lost, and also they meant something to me, so I will be cutting them out and adding them later. But before I do that, I found this sticker sheet and it had skulls on it, and I felt that by covering up the girl's face with a skull, it sort of represents a person who's alive but they're dead inside in some way, and that might sound a bit weird or like depressing, I don't know, but sometimes that's how we feel when we're sad or when we've had a love that's lost. I then used some tiny paper scraps to create a type of hat shape for the girl, add some interest to the upper portion of the index card and bring some of the colours that are in the lower half to the top. Next, I'm using once again some more painted papers to cover up a few areas that I weren't happy with, like this portion above the girl's shoulder. It had a black line there and I wanted to cover that up, and on the right hand side it seemed very dark, so I wanted to lighten it up a little bit using some music paper on the arm itself and some pattern paper around the edges to cover up some of the black. I then used my Sakura Jelly Roll pen in white to add some highlights to the girl's face, to her body and to her hair. I then, once I'm done doing this, realised that I want a more bolder highlight, and instead I used the pen to add some journaling to the right hand side of her body, and this also gives me a way of writing my thoughts and feelings down, what I was thinking while I was creating this page, what this page means to me, and a way of expressing myself. I then add the words I got from the book pages, which read, "Deep inside me, in some dark and cobweb chamber, I feel something twitch." And despite the fact this page is about love lost and the girl who feels dead inside, I think that saying "I feel something twitch" is a glimmer of hope that eventually she can find love and she can be happy once again. I'm now just using a Micron black pen to add some hearts to the background, once again to represent love as it is a Valentine's theme. And finally I have this red art pen which I'm using to add some journaling onto the left hand side of the page, and here and there I'm just adding a few finishing touches. And that's the index card completed. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment and subscribe if you did enjoy watching this, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.